Forget the space race to the stars. The real battle for power is where the cargo ship. From ships on the sea to the global economy, China is quietly building a maritime monopoly. Over the last 2 decades, Beijing has been harboring some massive global ambitions. They aren't just exporting cheap goods anymore, they are literally buying the docks those goods land on. But why is the world's biggest manufacturer suddenly obsessed with maritime real estate? Let's dive into how China is using ordinary ports to quietly reshape global power. To understand the strategy, look at the sheer numbers. A staggering 95% of China's international trade travels by sea. To protect that lifeline, President Xi Jinping launched the Belt and Road Initiative, and they've been casting a massive net ever since. Between 2000 and 2025, China pumped $24 billion into financing 168 different ports across 90 countries. Today, Chinese companies actively manage over 120 port projects worldwide. They aren't just renting dock space, they are buying the ocean's toll booths. China is the factory of the world. But to feed that machine, they import mountains of oil and rare earth minerals daily. Domestically, their infrastructure is unmatched. The port of Shanghai just processed a mind-blowing 49 million shipping containers in 2024, the busiest on Earth. But here's the real kicker. Globally, Chinese-operated ports now handle about 40% of all container traffic. By controlling the docks worldwide, they cut shipping costs and guarantee their economy never runs out of gas. This 21st Century Maritime Silk Road isn't just a regional side quest. China is applying serious peer pressure on a massive scale. If you map out these investments, you won't just find them in Asia. China has systematically planted its flag on every single continent on Earth, except Antarctica. From Europe to Latin America, this interconnected web guarantees that Chinese cargo ships are always dropping anchor in friendly Chinese-backed waters. It's an ultimate insurance policy for the world's biggest supply chain. Let's zoom in on Europe. Following the European financial crisis, Greece was struggling and China saw the perfect opening. Today, Chinese companies own a massive 85% stake in the port of Piraeus in Greece. They took a struggling facility and transformed it into a premier, direct maritime gateway funneling goods straight into the heart of the European market. It's a brilliant strategy. Find a vital regional bottleneck, buy a controlling stake, and turn a Greek tragedy into a Chinese triumph. Down in South Asia, China is stringing together strategic pearls to secure the Indian Ocean. In Pakistan, the Gwadar port gives China crucial access to the Arabian Sea. But the most famous example is Sri Lanka's Hambantota port. After the Sri Lankan government struggled to repay the massive Chinese loans used to build it, China simply took it over on a 99-year lease. It was a harsh wake-up call to the world. In this new maritime game, your collateral is your sovereignty. This network is aggressively expanding westward, bridging the gap from Africa straight to the Americas. In East Africa, China heavily invested in the port of Djibouti, sitting perfectly next to the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, a massive choke point for global shipping. Across the Pacific, China just built the colossal Chanquay port in Peru. For the very first time, this deep-water giant connects South America directly to Chinese trade routes, completely bypassing traditional Western shipping hubs. So why does owning a bunch of docks matter? Because it triggers a supply chain reaction. These facilities are not ordinary infrastructure, they are highly strategic assets. By operating terminals in the world's busiest ports, China gains unprecedented visibility into global trade flows. They know exactly what is moving and where. In peacetime, it makes logistics incredibly efficient. But in times of global crisis, holding the keys to the world's shipping lanes gives Beijing massive economic leverage over everyone else. Here is where Western governments start to sweat: the threat of dual-use docks. Experts warn that this civilian logistics network can easily hide military potential. In fact, researchers have flagged at least 10 Chinese-linked commercial ports capable of supporting naval operations. Remember Djibouti? China built its first overseas military base right next door. And considering the Chinese Navy is now the world's largest, boasting over 370 ships, a global network of friendly docks gives their military a massive strategic advantage. This rapid expansion has sparked a fiery global debate over debt trap diplomacy. Critics constantly point to that 99-year lease in Sri Lanka. They argue that developing nations are sinking into massive debt, eventually forced to hand over control of their infrastructure just to stay afloat. Now, China forcefully denies this, framing these multi-billion-dollar projects strictly as mutually beneficial partnerships. But whether you call it a debt trap or a simple business deal, the end result is the same. China runs the port. Naturally, this is stirring some seriously troubled waters for the West. The United States and its allies look at this 120-port network as a profound strategic vulnerability. American policymakers are sounding the alarm, warning that Beijing could use port ownership to gather intelligence, monitor military traffic, or actively disrupt trade during conflicts. In response, Washington has launched new maritime initiatives aimed at actively reducing Chinese influence. The shipping lanes have officially become the newest battleground in the US-China rivalry. To truly grasp what's happening, you have to understand we are riding a massive geopolitical sea change. History has one simple rule. Whoever controls the trade routes controls the era. The British Empire dominated the 19th century via naval bases. After World War II, the United States secured global power by controlling maritime choke points. Today, China is just reading from that exact same historical playbook. They are systematically building a brand new global trade infrastructure, perfectly centered around Beijing. From the cranes in the sky to the ships sailing by, China's global footprint is impossible to deny. Because in the game of global power, it's the waves that you make and the trade routes you take. Ports may look like ordinary infrastructure, but in geopolitics, they are gateways to power. By pouring $24 billion into docks across 90 countries, China isn't just moving cargo, it's entirely reshaping the map of global trade. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay charged.